Welcome, everyone, to another episode of The Spirit of Sake, the soul behind the brew. I am so excited, Kari, because last time we journeyed together to a land which was defined by dry winds and a very, strong, yielding spirit. We also saw about the Toji's passion and pride. We forged a connection between his community and mission. So, sake lovers, for my first episode, if you really did enjoy it, please subscribe to our channel because by subscribing to our channel, this will help support build this community we are trying to bring here. These beautiful, incredible stories from beautiful sake brewers from Japan. So, Kari-san, where are we going to next? I can't wait for us to dive into it.
Well, Sandra, today we are heading in completely new direction. We are in Akashi City, Hyogo Prefecture, where the landscape couldn't be more different. We explore a place embraced by the Seto Island Sea, which is very peaceful and calm, and then mountain and fertile agriculture we can find.
Oh, when you're just telling me about the land and everything is coming together, these are like the perfect brewing conditions and a great canvas for making delicious sake. So the sake brewery we're actually visiting is Raraku Sake Brewery in Akashi City. So the actual brand name is Lailoku. So pronunciation it translates as L instead of R. When I pronounce that properly, it's actually Lailoku.
Right.
It Lailoku, isn't it? Yes. So they say it is the greatest pleasure in life to drink and chat with good friends. そうですね。
Right, right. Yeah. What a perfect name for sake. Join us as we discover how this unique environment shapes the character and taste of Lilac Sake Brewery with Mr. Ibaraki. Let's listen in. ライラックさんの酒蔵は兵庫県明石市にありますよね。明石の独特な風土、例えば水源や瀬戸内海とのつながりが、ライラクさんのお酒の味や特徴にどのように影響してますか？
はい。質問ありがとうございます。私たちが今いる兵庫県明石っていう地域はですね、日本の中ですごく特別な、県です。えっと、に、大きくですね、日本の中で、日本海、北は日本海、南は瀬戸内海といった2つの海を持っているのがすごく特徴で、気候風土も同じ兵庫県の中で、5つ、5の、気候風土があります。その中で私たちが今いる明石というのは、瀬戸内海に面した、海峡の町でして、近くに六甲山っていう山があります。そこが花崗岩の山なんですけども、そこに降った雨が、ミネラルをたくさん吸い込んで、その水が地下水として使われるというのが、この明石の酒造りというか、この土地の特徴になっています。また、皆さんもご存知かもしれないんですけども、大阪という大きな町に近くでですね、近くの神戸。で、神戸の隣に明石があるんですけども、本当にもう目の前が海なので、その日に取れた新鮮な魚が取れる地域ですし、神戸ビーフって聞いたことありますかね。お肉も美味しい地域で、で、少しだけ山の方に行くと、本当に広い平野があるので、魚、お肉、野菜、穀倉、穀物ですね。もういろんなものが取れる素晴らしい地域がこの明石という地域になってます。
Okay, so Kara-san, our first question is about land and water, major factors in shaping Laloku sake. Now, everybody who kind of knows about sake already knows we need water to brew sake. But what they don't know is how the minerals in the water actually shape the taste of sake, doesn't it, Kari-san?
It is, Sandra. That's the very first lesson of sake. We cannot talk about the spirit of sake without first understanding the spirit of the land it comes from. Mineral-rich water from local mountain has long been considered treasure water for sake brewing in Japan. Since over 80% of sake is water, its quality relies heavily on the quality of the water used.
So it's a connection that really defines every part of this story. I was really impressed and struck by, what Ibaraki-san said about the water. The sake is a reflection of this land. The idea that rainwater on Mount Roko absorbs minerals and becomes the DNA of their sake. It's like the mountain itself is a silent, invisible partner in the brewing process.
It really is. That's the cleanest example of terroir in sake brewing. Terroir is a French term often used in wine, but it applies perfectly here. The idea that the taste of the product is directly linked to the environment where it was made. The mineral-rich water is the purest expression of the land soul.
Like you said, Kari-san, even Abaraki-san, mentioned the quiet weather of the Seto Inland Sea helps them make the sake so smooth and peaceful. The calm feeling of the air is in every bottle.
That's a perfect way to put it. The calm weather helps the brewing process style stable, which makes the sake peaceful. You can taste this calmness as the drink reflects the quiet beauty of the Akashi area.
Oh God, this is so true, Kari. And when I've tasted local sake, I actually feel this. Wow, everyone, we just only, simply dived in just a bit of, Lakosake where we've been transported to the land of Akashi City, where the water becomes the very essence of its soul. Now, can't wait for our next, question. Let's dive into the community and hear how Mr. Ibaraki speaks about the connection with the people of Akashi City, as well as makes Laluku sake different from other breweries. Let's listen in.
酒造りは地域の暮らしや伝統と深く結びついています。ライラクさんは明石の人々とどのように関わり、酒を通じてこの土地や人々の個性、歴史をどのように表現していると感じますか？
はい、ありがとうございます。日本酒の中ですごく有名なお米で、山田錦っていうお米があります。このお米がですね、実は誕生したのは、私たちが今いるこの明石という地域で誕生しました。これは大正時代だったか、昭和11年だったか、ちょっとはっきりしないんですけども、明石に農業試験場があるときに、誕生したお米でして、本当に明石を代表する素晴らしいお米がこの地域で、誕生しています。あとはですね、やっぱり先ほどもお話ししたように、明石っていうのは海産物、お魚、有名なお魚でいうと鯛、あとはタコ、アナゴとか、他は海苔、シーウィードですね。海苔もすごく有名なので、漁師さんもたくさんいます。そんな中で、本当に皆さんが、新鮮なお魚の味をすごくよく分かっている人たちが多いので、その グルメな人が多いので、その人たちに育てられながら、うちの蔵も成長しているというふうな、現在になってます。
3、水源以外で、明石特有の気候や土壌など、この土地ならではの要素が、ライラクさんの酒造りにどのように影響していますか？また、職人たちはこれらの自然の恵みとどのように向き合い、酒にどのような独特の味わいを与えていますか？
はい。その質問にお答えする前に、私たちのそのライラクという蔵の酒造りっていうのは、もうほとんどが兵庫県産のお米しか使ってません。それプラスですね、今積極的に進めている取り組みとして、先ほどお話しした、この明石の地下水っていうのが、六甲山に降った雨が大地に、大地にこう入っていって地下水になっているんですけども、農業でお米作りで使う、お水もその六甲山に溜まった、お水を、農業用水として使っています。で、私たちはその地下水と農業、お米がお米が吸って育ったお水の性格が似ている方が、親和性が高いなと思っているので、今、農業用水も六甲山の水源に近いところの、水を使うようにしています。で、あとはですね、この明石は、この播磨という明石だけではないんですけども、播磨という少し大きなエリアになるんですが、気候風土はすごく安定していて、大きな災害もないですし、今、日本はすごく夏の暑い時期なんですけども、この播磨、やっぱりこう海から来る風があるので、そこまで他の地域よりも少し気温が低かったりとか、冬も乾いた空気で、綺麗な環境で酒造りできるので、本当にこう穏やかに、酒造りが取り組めれるっていう地域になってます。
Harry-san, I was so fascinated by what Ibaraki-san said, that the famous Yamaguchi rice was originally developed right there in Akishi City. So this is another fundamental connection to the community, and because it is not just about any ingredients that they use, and they really describe it as the child of this land.
Yes, the rice is a source of immense local pride because its creation is an innovation that started right here. This unique rice creates a deep, collaborative bond between the farmers who grow it and brewers who use it. And that shared history of craftsmanship is what you can taste.
And that connection goes even deeper. So this beautiful, deep connection was actually beautifully showcased during Ibaraki-san's visit to Perth. He visited me last year in July, where the sake was actually expertly, paired with a menu with different seafood dishes. It is actually no surprise it was a perfect harmony because, as he put it, the sake evolved to match the taste of the discerning locals. So Akashi City, right, is actually famous for incredible seafood. And the sake has grown and changed along with, different palates of different people who drink it the most. It's a true synergy where the sake and the local culture build on each other. And that's what makes pairing so special.
It does. The people of Akashi didn't just consume sake. They helped shape it. The sake became a companion to their meals and a reflection of their well-being. When the Toji says they've been growing together, with the people, you can feel the shared history.
And it is like every sip, you're not just tasting the rice and water, you're tasting a shared story, the history of a famous rice, the pride of a local fisherman, and the identity of a community that is profound in a relationship with what they eat and what they drink. It's the soul that the people are in that bottle. Okari-san, I was actually so impressed and deeply moved about what Ibaraki-san said about his sake. One of their unique efforts was to use both the rice and the water that comes from the same local ecosystem. The idea that the same rainwater that nurtures the rice is the exact same water used for brewing process. It feels like a perfect sacred cycle. You know this feeling when you actually taste Lanaku sake. The very first time I tasted it, I knew it was different than other sakes I tasted, but I really couldn't understand what made it so different to the other sake breweries. Now I know.
It's so much more than just a convenient choice. It's a powerful act of respect for the land. He's not just trying to make a recipe on the environment. He's guiding the natural synergy of the ingredients to guide the process. The sake is a pure expression of how it's connected to the land.
And that peaceful feeling continues with the climate. Akashi City is actually known for its mild and calm weather, and he said that this tranquility is reflected in the character of the sake. It really makes you think, Kari-san, how beautiful, serene environment can lead to a sake with a peaceful spirit.
Exactly. This isn't just about a consistent temperature for fermentation. It's a philosophy. A tranquil climate makes a beautiful brewing process, and that sense of calmness is what you taste. The sake becomes a liquid meditation of the Akashi landscape.
So, Kari-san, it's in a way, the sake is a testament to the land's harmony, a product truly at peace with its own origins. What is so incredible is that isn't this like a very, poetic idea, like poetry? It's made officially by something he mentioned, Harima, geographical indication, so in short form, GI. It's an official stamp of approval from the government, right? It's the ultimate validation that this sake is truly a product of its land. I really feel when I hear about that, and as we were diving into, Ibaraki's journey with his sake, the rice fields with the local ecosystem is actually, I'm surrounded by it. So as I was reading and listening to the way he was answering these questions, I really felt I was in this rice field in Raraku Sake Brewery, and the whole ecosystem is surrounding me. So really can dive into our next part of our Toji's journey. And we go into the ideas. Why did he decide to become a sake brewer and a rice farmer? Let's listen in.
杜氏でありながら、ご自身で酒米も作られているのはとても珍しいですね。
うん。
子供の頃はどのようなお子様でしたか？また、ご家族や明石の環境がどのように酒造りへの道へとあなたを導いていったのでしょうか？
はい。子供の頃は本当に外で遊ぶのが好きでした。で、家の前ももう本当50メートルもかからないな、30メートルぐらい、家を出て30メートルぐらいでもう海なので、夏だったらずっと海で遊んでるような子供でした。あとは、やっぱ酒蔵で育っていますので、冬になると職人さんがたくさんやってきて、 お米を蒸す匂い、お酒がこうタンクの中で発酵する匂い、そういうのを嗅いで育っているので、ものづくりも、お酒を作ることがすごく身近だったし、そのお米がお酒に変わるのがすごく面白かったので、僕も大きくなると酒造りやりたいなっていうふうに、物を作ることをしてみたいなっていうふうにずっと思ってたので、子供の頃は外で遊んで、酒造りにも身近に親しんで、で、あとはやっぱりこう、自然とその酒造りの勉強ができる大学に行こうっていうふうにも決めましたし、大学卒業してからもすぐに、実家の酒造りに携わるようになりました。
Question 5. 杜氏であると同時にご自身で酒米も栽培されているのは大変珍しいですね。なぜ自ら土に触れ米作りを始めようと思ったのですか？米作りを直接手掛けることで酒造りへの考え方や原料への理解はどのように深まりましたか？
うん。お米作りを始めたのは、もうただただシンプルな理由で、もともとその酒蔵の隣に、自分の田んぼがあったから、父親がやってたお米作りを、手伝うことが始まりでした。で、いろんな農業っていろんな種類があるんですけども、現在は、認証は受けてないんですけども、オーガニックのやり方で、お米作りをやるようになって、で、そのオーガニックの農法に切り替えたときに、田んぼの匂い、土の匂いとかがもう全く変わったことがすごく面白くて、今もお米作りを続けています。また、お米作りをやっぱり自分でやっててよかったなと思うのが、もう全部自分のお米でお酒作ってるわけではなくても、自分のお米なんてほんと少しだけなんですけども、やっぱり農家さんとお話しするときに、僕がお米作りをしているという知識も少しありますので、農家さんとお話しするときにもやっぱりより深くお話ができますし、なんかね、農家さんも僕が知ってることで、一生懸命またいいお米を作ろうとしてくれるので、相乗効果があって、今もやっぱりお米作りやってていいなっていうふうに思っています。
Oh, wow. Kari-san, just want to share. When I first met Ibaraki-san in Perth last year, I asked him this question, which was a little bit maybe hard, a bit out of the ordinary to ask a Toji, but I asked him why he became Sake Toji. So when Ibaraki-san came to Perth last year, he told me becoming a sake brewer wasn't a choice he made, but rather a destiny that was already part of him. So technically, there was no pressure to take over the family business. And he was only 20 years old when he decided to become both a sake toji and also a rice farmer. So young, 20 years old. And we heard him say, right, he spent his childhood playing in the rice fields, observing the changing seasons. And so this kind of already set his path to becoming a rice farmer as well. It was so amazing to hear that he knew his path at such a young age.
I was also so moved by that. He talked about how the rhythms of brewing were all around him as a child. The smell of the rice, the sound of the brewing tanks. He was being shaped by this craft subconsciously long before he ever realized it was his destiny.
Honestly, as you were saying that, I'm actually seeing his story unravel here. So when I actually, taste his sake and sharing that as well, we're not only tasting the product of a brewer, we're tasting the life story of a man who was born with a purpose. His childhood, his family, his entire identity is all infused in the soul of his sake. Now, Kari-san, want to mention here as well, when we talk about rice, we need to talk to a rice farmer, right? But it's a whole different world when you focus on just rice. So like when Ibaraki-san, actually visited Perth last year, I was actually really blessed and really lucky to be the first to try a very new sake of his called organic sake. What I shared with our Perth locals here, we really captivated, his story that he shared about his process. And he really described the, immense effort he puts into every detail, from the earth to the soil to the fertilizer. He said that when he cultivates good, delicious rice, the entire ecosystem responds. It's like Mother Nature has her approval by bringing in the birds, the frogs, the rabbits, the insects to the fields because they know the rice is good. And it was like listening to a magical bedtime story about rice.
Exactly. He didn't just decide to grow rice. He discovered his connection to the earth itself. He talked about how changing to organic method, changing the smell of the soil. That's a beautiful sensory detail that reminds you he's not just a brewer, he's a conductor of the land.
You just said it. It's like composing the land to work for him, right? As a rice farmer with hands-on experience, he can guarantee great quality rice. This also allows him to communicate with other farmers at a deeper level as well.
I love how he said it keeps him grounded. It's a constant reminder of the important ingredients and hard works that makes all possible. He's humble and shows respect for the farmers who are the conductor of the earth.
So, Kari-san, the sake isn't just a product of the brewery. It's a product of the whole entire ecosystem, from the soul to the grain to the final bottle. I tell you, my heart is pumping here, Kari-san. When the more we dive in, the more we know about how, Ibaraki-san is doing such beautiful work with his sake. Let's dive in a little bit more to the philosophy behind Lalaku Sake Brewery, when Mr. Ibaraki-san speaks about how we can embrace traditions and innovation. And for a small brewery, how are they going through all of this, challenges as well? What makes Lalaku set the boundaries against the rest? Let's listen in.
酒造りの世界では、古くからの知恵と新しいアイデアのバランスが大切です。杜氏として、来楽さんでは、先祖代々受け継がれた伝統的な製法を守りながら、どのように人の創造性や革新的な挑戦を取り入れていますか？
はい。なかなか難しい質問ですね。例えば伝統的な酒造りの手法を全く変えてないって言ってる蔵はあんまり少ないと思います。っていうのはやっぱり今、お酒造りの技術っていうのは毎年どんどん、改革じゃないな、革新されていて、もう本当に新しい技術がどんどん生まれてきて、お客さんの味の嗜好、好みも、毎年のように変わっていきます。その中で、やっぱり消費者の方、お客様が皆さん美味しいと思って飲んでもらえるように、僕たち酒造りする側も、毎年新しい技術を取り入れながらやってはいます。と言いながらも、やっぱり日本酒っていうのは、原料がお米ですし、大きく、酒造りの手法、伝統的な手法から外れることはないので、質問としては代々受け継がれた技その ものだけではなくて、やっぱりこう毎年どんどん新しい技術が入ってきていますね。で、その中で僕たちが、毎年冬でお酒造りするときに心がけているのは、会社の味、来楽の味として、決まったものというよりは、この来楽の酒蔵が、作り出す要素っていうのはやっぱりこう大きくて、蔵にいる酵母であったりとか、使う地下水、あとは、金です。金だ、水だ、お米だっていうのは大きく変わらないので、大きくは来楽の味が仕上がるんですけども、その中で、僕たち作り手が、今年は少し甘めにしようとか、どうだろう、今年は少し辛めにしようとか、自分の好みで、その時の、その年、その時代の、思考を少し取り入れながら、時代に合った酒造りを、心がけているので、なんでしょうね、こう、大きな会社だと、もう決まった味、決まったレシピ、ゴールの成分みたいなのがあるかもしれないですけども、僕たちはもう来楽の蔵でできる味の中で、少しだけ、その時代に合わせた、仕上げ方をしています。
Oh, Kari-san, when I'm listening to Baraki-san's answers, I really feel a deep connection to what's happening in Japan. I can definitely feel the soul of his sake really coming alive here. And even though I'm not really drinking it, but I can go back to wanting to go to his bottle and actually drink it because of his stories. His insights are exactly what I was looking for. He's speaking the real truth about the sake brewing industry, that consumers' preferences are always shifting, not just in Japan, around the world. Everybody's shifting and everybody's trying to keep up. So the sake breweries are actually trying to constantly try and innovate new techniques, sake techniques to make sake that people can find delicious. What is also very fascinating what Baraki said as well is how exactly the same truth is how we see sake trends and movement in the market worldwide.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Sandra, you've hit on the beautiful truth. The constant shift in what people find delicious is exactly why tradition cannot be rigid thing. Ibaraki-san understands that the brewery can't just sell history. They have to create a new one with every batch. The focus is on a delicious, well-made product that connects with consumers around the world.
Exactly, Kari. When I was listening in to what he said, we can't just focus exactly on, how the product is made, but how can we match the consumers to connect how to deliciousness through our stories, right? Now he also said right, after hearing that is, the brewery also, he was talking about the rice shortages. So directly puts everything into a whole new context. It makes me feel what he means is when he's using something incredible, precious, and luxurious, right? This isn't a simple business challenge, isn't it?
Not at all. It's a genuine threat. This shortage is pushing up cost and could force small breweries out of the market. It's a domestic problem having a huge ripple effect globally, leading to less supply and a shift towards minimization. We are seeing prices go up all around the world.
Definitely, this is definitely a huge problem, right? Because breweries work so hard to fine craft, refine premium sakes to really showcase what they stand for. So it is a domestic problem. And what's happening domestically in Japan is actually having a global effect. But it also highlights, the brewery's greatest competitive edge as well. Even though a small size brewery and agility of it, right? The fact that a team in Lalagu Sake Brewery has 2 brewers, but can run a small test batch and make quick decisions allows for a level of precise and precisions to respond to the market compared to larger breweries, which they simply cannot match.
Absolutely. He mentioned those small 100 kg tanks, which allow them to run multiple trial brews each year. It's a perfect example of how their scale isn't a limitation. It's a tool for creativity and direct communication with their consumers.
Exactly, Kari. I mean, the fact that he can monitor in a small brewery with this amount of tanks shows that he can balance out of what he needs to produce with his sake to the market, right? So what really sets Laluku apart isn't just his heritage, it's their philosophy. In a time of rice shortages, their humility and gratitude are met with agile creative spirit. This sake is a living testament to a small team and a precious ingredients. Oh, sake lovers, my goodness, like the insights has been just so incredible, hasn't it? Have we gone already beyond the ocean and America's sun? Going through all the biggest challenges, what Ryaku faces is sharing his sake with the world. Let's really listen and see what he says about that.
Question number 7。
はい
日本酒と世界。ライラックさんの視点。ライラックさんの酒蔵が兵庫県内や他の酒蔵さんと比べて特に個性的だと感じる点はどこでしょうか。酒造りの哲学やそこに関わる人々の努力や情熱についてもっと多くの人に伝えたいことはありますか。
はい。えっと、ですね、今2025年、本当に日本では、お米の、生産について、お米がもう毎年なかなか足りない状況になっています。日本酒を作るためには、まずはやっぱりお米が必要で、私もここまでお米が足りないような状況になるなんて思ってなかったので、今年2025年の冬の酒造りは、本当に今まで以上にですね、もう贅沢なものを使って、酒造りをさせてもらってるんだなっていうことを意識してですね、もっとより強くですね。で、やっぱり今までお米作りを自分でもしているので、日本酒を作るための原料だっていうところもあったんですけども、本当に今は食べるお米の方が優先な状況なので、本当に贅沢なものを使って、日本酒っていうのが生まれているんだなっていうふうに今は思っています。で、どんな質問だったっけ。哲学ですよね。他の酒蔵と、兵庫県の他の酒蔵と比べてどういう特徴かっていうところはですね、兵庫県いろいろ最近若い動きが多くてですね、杜氏さんっていう職人がやってきて酒造りをするわけではなく、僕たちのように蔵の息子であったりとか娘がもう自分でお酒を作る蔵が増えてきてます。で、結構やっぱり若い感性を持って酒造りに挑んでいる蔵が多いので、うちの蔵は、来楽はやっぱり一番明石の、魚であったりとか食材に合う、本当に明石を代表するような銘柄でありたいなっていうふうに思ってます。で、それを実現できるのは、うちの蔵は酒造りを僕ともう一人職人がいるんですけども、2人で酒造りをしているので、やっぱり確認、目標の設定とあと確認作業がすごくすぐにできるので、 2人で打ち合わせをして、今年の酒はこうしよう、同じにしようっていうふうなことを決めながら、トライアルも、そうですね、調整できますし、でまたそれ以外にですね、うちの蔵はそのメインのライラックのブランド以外に、毎年、100キロの仕込みができるちっちゃなタンクがあるので、毎年数種類トライアルな酒造りもしていて、その中の皆さん、お客さんからの評価を聞いて、トライアルの酒がライラックに格上げされることもありますので、そういうふうに何か新しいものを毎日出して、皆さんに楽しんでもらうっていうふうな取り組みをやっているのが、他の蔵とは違う、特徴かなというふうに思います。
Ibaraki-san mentioned that there is this year, it is a rice shortage. So directly now, it kind of puts everything into a new context now. So what we know about rice in general, volume is now decreasing, and this is actually Japan's livelihood, which is rice. And this is a time now where rice is more precious than ever before. Ibaraki-san states, right, the rice right now is incredibly precious and luxurious. So rice crisis is affecting the economy and making harder for sake breweries to keep the goal of keeping sake at low cost. So this no longer is a simple business challenge, is it, Kari-san?
Yeah, it's a genuine threat. This shortage is pushing up cost and could force small breweries out of the market. It's a domestic problem having a huge effect globally, leading to less supply and shift towards premiumization. We are seeking prices go up all around the world. For small brewery like a Lilac, the cost of the making each bottle is going to be high because of their limited production, yet they face the challenge of keeping up with the prices set by large breweries.
Kari-san, you just mentioned about they're facing challenges like the Roku Sake Brewery facing with prices set by large breweries. So what's the actual difference between a large brewery and a small brewery when we're talking about what makes premium?
Yeah, premium sake in a true meaning, I believe, the microbrewery, the sake made by microbrewery with 2 hands and a smaller tank, like sometimes 500 bottles can be made by one tank. So let's imagine if the tank is so huge and divided by the tens of thousands of the bottles versus the smaller tank divided by 1,000 or 500 bottles, the cost of the making one bottle is so much different. So I believe the true meaning of the premium sake is sake made by microbrewery by very crafty 2 hands. Yeah.
It is just a word, premium sake, premiumization, right? But it's still very loosely used and very vague, outside of Japan, because when we're trying to promote sake, we say premium sake, but people are thinking mostly just because of high polishing ratio, high end ingredients and all that. But when you think about it, like we have high polishing ratios from larger breweries, right? But we see the cost, it doesn't seem to match what we consider premium versus the quality of the product, right? So you were mentioning, the difference between the different sizing bottles and the tanks as well. So you just elaborate on that, right? Having a large brewery gives them more of a higher advantage of volumes. So when you have more volumes, the cost is actually going to be much more advantageous as well, right? Because more volume, you're able to distribute more, than the cost of the sake production, cost itself will be much more reasonable considered for buying sake compared to a microbrewery who's only got two hands or maybe only a few different staff, and they can't supply that much sake every year because of the limited batch they have. And that's why some these microbreweries, they only have limited batch. So therefore, if you only got this small volume, then that becomes the only accessible, volume that you have. And when you divide that into bottles, smaller bottles, 720 mils, 1.8 issue bin bottles, the costs are going to be different as well. And then want to ship that overseas, give it to the distributing suppliers, then there's another cost on top of that. You just imagine how much the cost will be, divided and actually made up and get that markup as well. So I think this is really important to let our audience know that, sometimes price cannot be determined as a clear factor or a premiumization is, right? So thank you, Kari, for clarifying that about premiumization. It's been actually an ongoing topic this week with a few of my students. So yeah, so definitely interesting. It's actually a domestic problem as well, right? This global effect, it really highlights the brewery's greatest competitive edge. It's a small size microbrewery, and the fact that the team of 2 brewers only running small batches allows them to make quick decisions. So with a small batch, you can actually manage, to test the batch without, wasting anything because you only got a small volume. And the precision level is much more higher and more responsive than a larger brewery. Simply, they can't match.
So what sets Lilac apart isn't just its heritage, it's their philosophy. In a time of rice shortage, their humility and gratitude have the power and ability to think quickly and have a creative spirit. Lilac sake is a living testament to a small team and a precious ingredient.
Oh my goodness, Kara-san, what you just said was just perfect of how we describe Araku sake. My goodness, sake lovers, the insight has been so incredible, hasn't it? Now we are going beyond the ocean, and Baraki-san is going to share with us the biggest global challenges that Lilac faces in sharing his sake with the world. Let's listen in.
世界市場における日本酒の最大の課題とチャンスは何だと思いますか？ライラクさんは酒の真の価値、その職人技、土地とのつながり、そして文化的な背景を世界の人々に伝えるためにどのように取り組んでいますか？
はい、そうですね。私たち、茨城酒造、ライラックとしてはですね、世界市場に向けた商品開発とか、そういうことは今のところやっていません。本当に今、グローバルというか、日本にインバウンドで旅行に来られる方がたくさんいらっしゃいますので、日本に来て、日本の料理を食べて、日本酒を飲む機会がたくさんあると思います。その中でやっぱり美味しかったという経験を持った方がですね、自国に戻られて、サンドラさんのように日本酒を伝えてる酒のお店でお酒をまた日本酒を飲んでみたいなと思う機会が今は割と多くの国で経験できますので、特別ね、グローバル商品とかっていう開発はやってないんですけども、やっぱりその中で僕が思うのは、日本に来た時の体験とか、その食材に、一番魅力を持たれると思うので、明石の食材に合うのがライラク。それが本当にイコールになれば、広く解釈すれば、やっぱ魚に合うお酒ってライラクだよねとかっていうふうに思ってもらえるなと思っています。なので、まずはやっぱり地元の料理に合うことを注力して、それが海外の方にも、やっぱりも ね、魚を食べる文化ってどこの国にもありますので、魚イコールライラクって思ってもらえることにつながるかなっていうふうに今は思っています。
Kara-san, so I think what Mr. Baraki-san, Baraki-san said about approaching the global market, he said he's not actively pursuing the global market as strongly as most breweries are because his product is not developed just yet, right? Because like even the organic sake I mentioned, he was just testing it out, but we were the first ones to really embrace that organic sake, and we really felt it was a beautiful sake to showcase to Perth locals. So what Baraki-san is stating here, he's focusing inward, what's happening inside the brewery, on the growing number of visitors, coming to Japan, so the tourism, right? So the idea that these travelers, can form a true emotional connection to sake when they experience his sake. So it is firsthand talking also about, Akashi's local seafood as well to experience that powerful energy that still is pumping to our, our tourists and our foreigners who go there. And then when they come back home, it's still pumping that emotional, powerful energy. Karis and I actually see this in the shop, right? Customers are either going to Japan, or coming back from Japan. So when they see a sake bottle, their face just lights up, not necessarily because of the brand, but because it reminds them of their trip to Japan, or maybe their bucket list to go to Japan or going to Japan. The one that they are planning that connection and yearning for that connection to Japan, right? So they're not driven by commercial branding. It's never worked, right? Yes, marketing is great, promotion is great, but if there's no connection to that brand, even with commercial branding, it won't lift the spirits of, our locals here. It is the spirit of where it comes from. That's where they fall in love, right? So I want to mention here also, Kari-san, Maraku Sake Brewery and Ibaraki-san mentioned, is still a young brewery in the global market. But I can feel, even in a short amount of time, I can feel its strength because we just launched it last year, July. I am so blessed that I was able to be part of that starting of his global project and this beautiful revolution of what he's trying to bring into the global market. And it was the same sort of feeling and the same sort of startup, which I started with Master Hiroshi Sake all those years ago as well.
I love that, Sandra. You're right. It's a powerful and organic strategy. It's about letting the product authenticity speak for itself. That's emotional connection you're talking about. The memory of a place, a meal, a feeling, that's the most potent marketing tool they could have. They are not creating sake for global market. They are creating sake that is so perfectly tied to its home that it's story natural travelers. Their approach trusts that the people around the world who love fish will eventually make the association. Fish equal lilac. It's a long-term play, but it's rooted in something real, not just a commercialism. It's a beautiful version for the future of sake.
You said it right, Kara-san. Commercialism. Let's just get rid of that word, can we? I mean, the brand should be able to talk from its story itself, right? And it's the people who are able to connect to the sake brand to actually share it with the world. And that's the beautiful vision and future of sake. So another question I get asked all the time, Kara-san, is, what should we actually connect with people and what should we tell people about sake, right? And how do we connect to them in a deeper level? So I'm really curious. This is a real challenge for most breweries to do. And I'm curious to see what Ibaraki-san actually says to approach this. Let's listen in.
これから日本酒を飲んでみようと考えている方に、日本酒と より深く親しみ、楽しむためのアドバイスをお願いします。
はい。もう僕はもう日本酒は完全に、料理と一緒に楽しむものだと思っています。古酒の楽しみ方とかもあるかもしれないですけれども、広く一般的に販売されている純米とか純米吟醸とかっていうのは、料理を食べながら、飲むお酒だと思っています。日本人ってよく言われる、口内調理ができるっていうふうに言われてます。魚を食べながら、お肉を食べながら、少し残ってる間に日本酒を、飲む。そうすると、こう、ね、違う味が生まれてくるっていうのが、こう、日本酒の楽しみ方だと思うので、そうですね、レストランで、おすすめの日本酒をと一緒にペアリングを楽しんでいただけたらなと。で、その中でも自分の好みっていうのは、やっぱこう方向がいろいろあると思うので、信頼できる、サンドラさんのような方に相談して、より自分の好みに近いお酒を紹介してもらうのがいいなと思います。並んでるだけのお酒とか、情報誌で書いてあるお酒っていうよりも、やっぱりこう自分の好みを分かってくれる人から、日本酒を買う方が、せっかくなんで、よりいい日本酒ライフが過ごせるかなと思っています。
Oh, just listening to Ibaraki-san, Kari-san, he's such kind words from Ibaraki-san. When he said it really hits home, to what he said, because my job isn't easy. And I've shared this with you so many times, Kari, of how I've, grown to come into this industry and what I've done for this industry, right? So over the 20 years, I've analyzed so much customer data to find people's taste. And it's always changing, it's always shifting, it's always developing. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting new data every single time because there's different people coming to try these sakes, the same sakes, and I have to, decode exactly what that data means. It is really a hard job to find that connection, but when you're able to, it is so rewarding. I love how I'm able to profile a customer who's maybe never tried sake before, very first time, and able to change their mind. Their face lighting up with so much smiles and so much appreciation is so rewarding to see.
That's a perfect way to put it, Sandra. He spoke from the perspective of Toji, creating the sake, but you are on the other side, creating that truly rewarding sake life for the customer. It's a difficult job, but it's a human connection. You are 20 years of experience. Your passion and your skill are matching a person's palate. That completes the journey of the sake from the brewery to the glass.
Sorry, son, that's so nice for you to say that as well. And I want to say, like he mentioned want to quote on this, oral pairing. What a brilliant phrase, right? It's different concept to just food and wine pairing. And I find this to be so true. Sake makes you feel different amongst the foods in your palate, right? I was actually so impressed, right, about when we talked about together about the consumer market and sake profiling, matching the sake to a consumer's palate. It was how he expressed that was really, really kind of him. So, and when I chat with him and his exporter as well, when we got it translated, he was actually really impressed that I was able to give him so much data. Probably I thought I was overwhelming him, but I think Ibaraki-san really truly appreciated it.
He's absolutely right. Oral pairing is a perfect way to describe it. It's about letting the sake and the food play off of each other, creating a new evolving experience with every bite and every sip. And I think it's so savvy of a Toji like him to understand that the modern sake journey starts with a personal recommendation. It validates your role as a trusted guide. Sandra, and shows that this is an industry that truly cares about helping people find their own rewarding sake life.
Absolutely, Kari. I mean, he's talking about changing the world and turning a simple drink into a journey. Like in my shop, that's the whole point. When a customer walks in and says they're new to sake, I'm not just selling them a bottle. I always never choose a bottle because it was the best brand, never choose a bottle because of the best price. I profile that sake profile for the customer because I want them to enjoy the journey. So when I'm helping them discover a new taste, I am able to share a new feeling and they're able to feel a new feeling. I can even make them see the appreciation for the culture of Japan and the sake brewery as well. It's not about selling, it's about building a truly rewarding experience through sake through one sip. So, sake lovers, the connection is so powerful with sake, but the food is another dimension. Now we move on to food pairing. What kind of foods does Ibaraki-san want to see with his sake internationally? Let's listen in.
もし、ライラクさんの日本酒を海外の料理と合わせるとしたら、どんな料理を選びますか？その理由も教えてください。明石や兵庫には、その土地の精神や人々を表すような地元の食材や料理で、ライラクさんのお酒と特に相性の良いものはありますか？
はい。今まで、の質問の中で、自分で答えてきて、少し長くなります。はい。今までこう自分の答えの中で、魚に合う酒でありたいとか、やっぱ明石は、新鮮な魚が多いんだよっていうお話はしてきました。その中で、もちろん酒造り、来楽の酒を作るためにはお魚に合った酒造りっていうのはもう一番、重要視をしているんですけども、以前ですね、僕たちも勉強会をしました。本当に自分が言ってるものと合うかどうかを確認しようっていう勉強会でして、魚介のスープ、お肉のスープ、野菜のスープ、あとなんかあったかな、なんかこうその全然違うタイプの違うスープを飲んでから自分のお酒を飲むっていう、試験でした。今まで私はずっと魚に合うお酒を作ってますって言ってたんですけども、その会場の中に参加された方の、15人ぐらいいたんですけども、お肉のスープに一番合う酒がライラクでした。もうそれは本当にライラクの中でも純米吟醸っていう、種類のお酒だったんですけども、自分が思ってもない結果がそこで発見できたので、いや待てよと、うちは魚に合う酒だって言ってたんですけども、意外と肉にも合うんだなと、そういう経験もしましたし、あとはですね、やっぱりこうイギリスに行った時に、ソムリエの方から言われたことですごく印象的だったんですけども、ミキ私ミキヒトって言うんですけども、ミキ知ってるかと、今ソムリエ業界ではチーズと日本酒を合わすのが流行ってんだと、やったことあるかって言われたので、日本に戻っていろんなチーズを買って、自分の蔵の酒と合わせてみたときにですね、例えばこうブリードモーみたいなこうソフトなチーズと大吟醸を合わせてすごく美味しかったですし、青カビ系のスティルトンみたいな青カビ系のチーズと大吟醸もすごく美味しかったです。チーズとしては苦手なんですけども、ヤギのチーズ食べながら、生酒を合わせた時にもすごく感動的だったし、熟成系の日本酒とコンテのとかミモレットのようなこう熟成系のチーズの相性なんかもすごく美味しかったので、僕たち日本人が普段食べてる日本の料理と日本酒っていうのはなかなか経験できないと思いますが、皆さんが住まれている地域でやっぱり 手短に買えるチーズなんかと日本酒を合わせてみてもらっても、すごく楽しい経験ができるんじゃないかなっていうふうに思ってます。あとは、フランスのサンセールの、生産者が意外と日本酒とですね、塩昆布をなんか日本から買ってるらしくて、塩昆布と日本酒を合わせて楽しんでるよっていう話も聞いたことがあるので、まあ、身近な食べ物で、日本酒合わせてもらったら、はい、日本食じゃなくても、きっと合う料理はあると思いますので、試していただきたいなと思います。
Such an incredible insight and story, isn't it, sake lovers? The idea that Master Ibaraki-san was so convinced that his sake was only for fish, okay, because Akashi is abundant of the seafood, right? Then he was open to tasting and seeing how sake can also be offered with other foods. It completely changed his mind. It also again reminds me when he visited Perth, we were organizing curated menu for Lalaku sake brew. And of course, we focused on fish and seafood. But I asked this question, is there any interesting pairings that he has found in his, experience? And surprisingly, he chose a herb, which is coriander. So we wanted to see what, Ibaraki-san, saw in coriander. So we tried it ourselves. And once we did, it was a perfect match with one of his sakes, which is Raku Jumai Ginjo, which is, Yamanadishiki and Gohaku Mangoku, different rices there. Focusing on that style, our guest was really intrigued with the pairing. A lot of them actually bought the sake because of that pairing, right? And that's another way that customers are drawn to emotion because they enjoy the experience and they see that flavorful food pairing that matches well with the sake. That's why they buy, right? So I guess really had an enjoyable evening with Ibaraki-san. As this was his first time coming to Perth and meeting Perth locals, he really felt like he was at home, and he really was really happy that he was able to share his hometown, stories with the Perth locals here.
Yeah, what a fantastic story. That's a real genuine of sake, isn't it? Its versatility. Mr. Ibaraki-san is a Toji who is truly a visionary. He's pushing sake's limit with non-Japanese flavors. Because sake has a low acidity, it can harmonize with a huge range of the foods without crushing, which is a big advantage. It has over many wines. It just provides sake is a global beverage for everyone.
Okari-san, another eye-opener, isn't it? Another cheese game experience with another Toji. Ibaraki-san shared a game with cheese, right? He said he's not even a fan of, blue cheese, but pairing it with unpasteurized sake was emotional. I myself don't like blue cheese, but when I was introduced to, namazake or even koshu sake, out of this world with blue cheese. Because blue cheese, for most people, is probably one of the hardest flavors to conquer, right? But with the power of like an unpasteurized sake, because of those living enzymes creating a truly mind-blowing umami experience, right? That goes beyond anything you expect. It seems like the trend of going against traditional Japanese food pairings is sparking a domino effect. It's the new cheese game, right? It's not just lalaku. We go back to our previous episode, Master Roshi Sakeburi, right? Stated the same finding ways to match the lactic environment from cheese with their sake.
Wow, that's such a great observation, Sandra. This cheese game isn't just about the pairing, it's about pushing the boundary of what sake can be.
It's a domino effect started by the new generation of Toji like Ibaragi-san and Mr. Master Hiroshi, who was so confident in their craft that they are willing to take their sake out of its tradition context and let it fit a place at any table in the world. It's a truly beautiful vision for the future of sake.
It truly is, Kari, and we're just mentioning, in our little chat there as well, how sake is able to be so diverse with so many different cuisines because of its low acidity as well, right? Some people think, right, low acidity is bad in, with food. It's actually not. It actually makes it much more approachable to be with different types of food, right? It is so rewarding seeing it happen firsthand. Such a privilege to watch these Torjis create and redefine what is the possibility of what they can discover with their sake and truly harmonize with a pairing such as blue cheese or a simple herb like coriander back to our customers, right? That I think is the true spirit of sake.
もしライラクさんのお酒が自らの物語を語るとしたら、それはどのようなお話になるでしょうか。土地の恵み、作り手の情熱、そして田んぼから一本の瓶になるまでの道のりをどのように表現しますか。
はい、これについてはですね、もう自信を持っているのが、すべて、すべて、お米作りは、もちろんこう協力して、農家さんに作ってもらってるお米もあります、がほとんどなんですけども、蔵に入ってきてからはですね、もうすべて僕の、手が加わってます。お米を洗うところから、蒸して、麹を作る、タンクに、冷やしたお米をタンクに入れて混ぜる、お酒を絞る工程もそうですし、その後にお酒の味わいもチェックします。瓶も、僕ともう一人の職人で、瓶も洗って、瓶詰め作業も、僕が管理して、一本一本こうボトリングをしています。ちっちゃな蔵だからできることでもあるんですけども、お酒作りって意外とこう冬の間何本もタンクを仕込むんですね。で、仕込んでは絞って瓶詰めするっていう工程になるんですけども、そうなると瓶詰めの1本目から瓶詰めの途中、瓶詰めの最後っていうところで、僕は差があったらダメだと思ってるので、僕が瓶詰め作業をすることによって、もう同じように瓶詰めの工程もしてます。どのボトルを買ってもらっても責任を持てるように酒造りに携わっていますので、そこは本当に、なんかこう全部の作業に携わっている。でまたやっぱりお酒造り冬場っていうのはこれは職人としては素晴らしいことだと思うんですけども、一家族の人間としてはすごく欠点だと思います。僕本当朝早くから夜遅くまで、酒造りのためにも半年間は生活していますので、そうですね、割とこうもう人生をかけてお酒作りをしています。でそんだけ注力したお酒なのでボトリングの時にも手を抜きたくない、それを買う人が同じ味でありてほしいと思ってますので、その辺が僕の努力が全部ボトルに詰まっていると思ってやっていただけたらなと思います。
Question number 12。日本酒は明石という地域の中だけでなく、異なる文化や国籍を超えて人々を結びつける力があると思いますか。酒を組み交わすことがどのように人々の間に橋を架け、理解を深めると感じてますか。
はい。 これはどうなんですかね。お酒の文化っていうのは、例えばWHO でアルコールは本当に体に悪いとかっていうお話ありますけど、日本酒に限らず、やっぱりお酒を飲むことによって、人とのコミュニケーションっていうのは深くなることですし、やっぱりお酒を飲むようになってからですね、食べ物も美味しいですよね。で、お酒飲みながら人と会話をして、料理を楽しむっていう時間って本当に贅沢ですので、お酒がある、食生活、これは本当に大事だと思います。で、その中で、日本酒がどういう役割をしていくかっていうところはですね、僕たち今日本から世界に、日本酒を発信している立場ですけども、逆にもう昔は日本はワインが入ってきて、やっぱり今はワインがちゃんと地位があるようにですね、日本の、食じゃないな、日本の職人がしっかり作った日本酒っていうのは、やっぱりどこの国の人でも何か伝わると思うんですよね。気持ちが入ったものっていうのは。で、えっと、うん、あの、できれば、そうですね、希望ですけど、うん、やっぱ自分を信じてというか、なんていうんでしょうね、誰かが美味しいとかではなくて、勧めてもらう、先ほどもちょっとお話ししましたけど、勧めてもらえる人のものを信じて、楽しんでもらえれば、そのちっちゃなコミュニティってやっぱりどんどんどんどん大きくなってくると思いますので、えーっと、日本だけではなくて、もちろん日本の中でもそうなんですけども、海外においても、えーうん掛け渡しや橋渡しにもなると思うし、皆さんのコミュニティが広まっていくツールには、日本酒は必ずなるというふうに思っています。
Oh, Kari-san. So we're just hearing back, Ibaraki-san describe his hands-on involvement in every step from the rise to the final bottling. It gives you a whole new level of respect for what's in that bottle, right? This isn't a factory-made product. It's a personal work of craftsmanship. I mean, he said it himself. For about half a year, my life revolves entirely around the sake. That's the kind of dedication that makes all the difference because not every toji starts from the rice field to the brewery, right? But every step he's watching. So this makes a huge dedication and also makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's a part really touched me. The personal sacrifice. He put his time, his hand, and a huge part of his life into this craft. The sake is infused with that human effort. It's a reminder that a great product is born from deep personal commitment.
You just said that beautiful phrase, human effort. We're not talking about machines here. You see, there are some breweries that actually do machines. When it's human effort, that's that blood, that sweat, that dedication, that, hard working hours, waiting for the brew to have the tasting, the process, the refining, human effort, right? And because of that, the sake itself tells a story. Every step you perform is a chapter to that passion, to the dedication, and a very silent effort and quiet effort. It's like a narration of a story that you can feel even if you don't know the full details.
Yeah, exactly. The sake is a reflection of the Toji's spirit and his dedication. When you drink lilac sake, you're not just tasting rice and water, you are tasting his integrity, his core, and his personal connection to his work. He said, when someone drinks it, I hope they can taste that my effort, my spirit, everything I put in.
When you translate it like that, it is exactly the story I want to share with our audience, right? My effort, my spirit, everything I put my soul into, right? So the story of Oracle Sake isn't just about where it comes from. It's a story about who made it. And this profound sense of authenticity that makes every sip feel like sharing is a very personal journey. This is the soul essence behind that bottle.
日本酒は、明石という地域の中だけでなく、異なる文化や国籍を超えて人々を結びつける力があると思いますか？酒を酌み交わすことがどのように人々の間に橋を架け、理解を深めると感じてますか？
はい。これはどうなんですかね。こう、お酒の文化っていうのは、例えばこう WHO でアルコールは本当に体に悪いとかっていうお話ありますけど、日本酒に限らず、やっぱりこうお酒を飲むことによって、人とのコミュニケーションっていうのは深くなることですし、やっぱりこう、お酒を飲むようになってからですね、食べ物も美味しいですよね。で、お酒飲みながら人と会話をして、料理を楽しむっていう時間って本当に贅沢ですので、お酒がある、食生活、これは本当に大事だと思います。で、その中で、日本酒がどういう役割をしていくかっていうところはですね、僕たちこう今日本から世界に、日本酒を発信している立場ですけども、逆にもう昔は日本はワインが入ってきて、やっぱりこう今はワインがちゃんと地位があるようにですね、日本の、こう食じゃないな、日本の職人がしっかり作った日本酒っていうのは、やっぱりこうどこの国の人でも何か伝わると思うんですよね。気持ちが入ったものっていうのは。で、うん、あの、できれば、そうですね、希望ですけど、やっぱこう、自分を信じてというか、なんていうんでしょうね、こう、誰かが美味しいとかではなくて、勧めてもらう。先ほどもちょっとお話ししましたけど、勧めてもらえる人のものを信じて、楽しんでもらえれば、そのちっちゃなコミュニティってやっぱりどんどんどんどん大きくなってくると思いますので、えーっと、日本だけではなくて、もちろん日本の中でもそうなんですけども、海外においても、えーうん、架け渡しや橋渡しにもなると思うし、皆さんのこうコミュニティが広まっていくツールには、日本酒は必ずなるというふうに思っています。
Ari-san, so beautiful. The way the role is described about sake in our society. Eberaki-san, he actually not sees it as just a beverage, but a tool for deeper communication and connection. What makes a simple meal or a conversation feel more meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. And what a beautiful point he made about trust. The connection aren't built by a product, but by a community of people who trust the brewer. That trust is the foundation for everyone, from the farm to the table, and it's what allows sake to bring people together.
You're so right, Harry-san. Sake to bring people together. This is how we're trying to make people embrace sake, but we're going to start by bringing people together, right? It shows how sake can be that bridge between people. It's not about pushing a product on an international market, but about sharing a culture, a story, a philosophy. It's a way for people from different nations to find common ground over a shared meal.
Yeah, the sake itself become a vehicle for more profound kind of exchange. It allows people to step outside of themselves and connect with a story that is honest and authentic. The trust you have in the sake is the same trust that allows you to open up and connect with the person across the table.
So true, Kara. Some person across a complete stranger, right? And just someone pouring sake in a small little, glass and in a masu to do a mukuri, type of experience to intrigue that interest and draw them into this our world is a true power. That sake itself is not about taste only, it's a complexity. It's about the ability to foster a human connection that is genuine. It's a quiet, powerful force for bringing people together.
ライラクさんの酒蔵の今後の目標や夢は何ですか？また、ご自身の酒蔵だけでなく、日本酒が世界中で人々を土地、文化、そしてお互いに結びつける飲み物として、どのような未来を築いてほしいと願っていますか？
なかなか壮大な質問ですね。僕の、このライラクの、目標ですよね。やっぱり食文化というか、地域の産業とかを今は、食の方から、つなぎたいなと思ってて、自分のライラクがなくても多分大丈夫なんですよね、皆さんは。明石の人の、明石のレストラン、明石の地元の、住まれてる一般の方、ライラクなくても別に大丈夫なんですよね、人生は。でも、一生懸命僕がこの日本酒、地酒として、ライラクを作っている以上、そうですね、やっぱライラクがあって、明石の食文化の一つだよねっていうふうに思ってもらえるっていうのが一番の喜び、今の喜びですし、で、ライラクがいろんなところで、皆さんの、なんでしょうか、例えば海外でも人気だよとか、いうお話聞いてもらうと、例えばうちのお米、ライラクのお米を作ってる農家さんも元気が出ますよね。農業も、例えばこれだけ作れば、これだけのエリアでお米を作ればこれだけの売り上げがあるよねとかっていう、そのお金ベースではなくて、やっぱりそれはもちろん大事なんですけども、うちで作ったお米がライラクのお酒になって、そのライラクの酒が、明石の飲食店に並んでて、やっぱライラク飲むと明石だよねって感じてもらえるっていうのはすごくこの地域の食文化に僕は貢献してるなっていうふうに、実感できる大きな要因なので、今後もこの地元の食文化の一員でありたいなっていうふうに思ってます。で、またこの考え方は末永く、続いていけば、やっぱり今うちの蔵は、創業で176年目なんですけども、これが200年とか300年続くっていうのは、続いていくことが、正解かどうかわかんないですけども、やっぱ続くっていうことは、地元の人たちにちゃんと愛されていることだし、そのうちのお酒作りに使うお米を作る農家さんもちゃんといるってことで、産業が末永く続いていっているっていうことの象徴にもなるので、やっぱりなんだろうな、やっぱり続ける、地酒の酒蔵を続けるっていうことは、一番の目標だと思います。で、その中で、そうですね、なんか地元の祭りもそうなんですけども、僕たちの地域、秋に祭りがあるんですけども、結構重いし大変な祭りなんですけども、なんかいろんなものがなくなっていくのはすごく寂しいので、なんか当たり前にあるように思われてるかもしれないですけども、当たり前のものを守ってるっていうことに対して、そうですね、つながり、すごくまとまってないですね。でもやっぱ食文化の一つなので、 今後も続けていきたいなと思います。で、それをこう共感してくれる人たちが、世界の中でまた新たにつながれると、僕たちもやってる意義があるなっていうふうに感じてるので、今後とも、よければ、ちょっとまたライラクの酒も手にしていただけたらなと思います。
Harry-san, so beautiful. The way the role is described about sake in our society. Eberaki-san, he actually not sees it as just a beverage, but a tool for deeper communication and connection. What makes a simple meal or a conversation feel more meaningful.
Yeah, exactly. And what a beautiful point he made about trust. The connection aren't built by a product, but by a community of people who trust the brewer. That trust is the foundation for everyone, from the farm to the table, and it's what allows sake to bring people together.
You're so right, Harry-san. Sake to bring people together. This is how we're trying to make people embrace sake, but we're going to start by bringing people together, right? It shows how sake can be that bridge between people. It's not about pushing a product on an international market, but about sharing a culture, a story, a philosophy. It's a way for people from different nations to find common ground over a shared meal.
Yeah, the sake itself become a vehicle for more profound kind of exchange. It allows people to step outside of themselves and connect with a story that is honest and authentic. The trust you have in the sake is the same trust that allows you to open up and connect with the person across the table.
So true, Kara. Send that person across the table. It could be a complete stranger, right? And just someone pouring sake in a small little, glass and in a masu to do a mukuri, type of experience to intrigue that interest and draw them into this our world is a true power. It isn't just about the taste or the complexity, but its ability to foster a genuine human connection. It's quiet, powerful force for bringing people together. I am so excited, sake lovers. We are now going full circle to our, final question with, Ibaraki-san is what is his hopes and dreams for the future of his sake brewery? Let's listen in.
ライラクさんの酒蔵の今後の目標や夢は何ですか？また、ご自身の酒蔵だけでなく、日本酒が世界中で人々を土地、文化、そしてお互いに結びつける飲み物として、どのような未来を築いてほしいと願っていますか？
なかなか壮大な質問ですね。僕の、このライラクの、目標ですよね。やっぱりこう、食文化というか、こう、地域の産業とかを今は、食の方から、つなぎたいなと思ってて、自分のライラクがなくても多分大丈夫なんですよね、皆さんは。明石の人の、明石のレストラン、明石の地元の、住まれてる一般の方、ライラクなくても別に大丈夫なんですよね、人生は。でも、一生懸命僕がこの日本酒地酒として、ライラクを作っている以上、そうですね、やっぱこう、ライラクがあって、明石の食文化の一つだよねっていうふうに思ってもらえるっていうのが一番のこう喜び、今の喜びですし、で、ライラクがこういろんなところで、皆さんの、なんでしょうか、例えばこう海外でも人気だよとか、いうお話聞いてもらうと、例えばこう、うちのお米、ライラクのお米を作ってる農家さんも元気が出ますよね。農業も、例えばこう、これだけ作れば、これだけのエリアでお米を作ればこれだけの売り上げがあるよねとかっていう、そのお金ベースではなくて、 やっぱりそれはもちろん大事なんですけども、うちで作ったお米が、ライラクのお酒になって、そのライラクのお酒が、明石の飲食店に並んでて、やっぱライラク飲むと、明石だよねって感じてもらえるっていうのはすごく、この地域の食文化に僕は、貢献してるなっていうふうに、実感できる大きな要因なので、今後もこの地元の食文化の一員でありたいなっていうふうに思ってます。で、またこの考え方は末永く、続いていけば、やっぱり今うちの蔵は、創業で176年目なんですけども、これが200年とか300年続くっていうのは、続いていくことが、正解かどうかわかんないですけども、やっぱ続くっていうことは、地元の人たちにちゃんと愛されていることだし、そのうちのお酒作りに使うお米を作る農家さんもちゃんといるってことで、産業が末永く続いていってるっていうことの象徴にもなるので、やっぱりなんだろうな、やっぱり続ける、地酒の酒蔵を続けるっていうことは、一番の目標だと思います。で、その中で、そうですね、なんか地元の祭りもそうなんですけども、僕たちの地域、秋に祭りがあるんですけども、結構重いし大変な、祭りなんですけども、なんかいろんなものがなくなっていくのはすごく寂しいので、なんか当たり前にあるように思われてるかもしれないですけども、当たり前のものを守ってるっていうことに対して、あの、えーそうですね、つながり、すごくまとまってないですね。まあでもやっぱ食文化の一つなので、今後も続けていきたいなと思います。で、それを共感してくれる人たちが、世界の中でまた新たにつながれると、僕たちもやってる意義があるなっていうふうに感じてるので、今後とも、よければ、ちょっとまた来楽の酒も手にしていただけたらなと思います。
Such a passionate story, Kari-san, isn't it? Ibaraki-san's greatest hope for the future isn't just to be about the global brand, but to be meaningful and a cherished part of the local food culture. It is an act of profound humility that showcases his sake.
Yeah, it really is. His wish is for the sake to exist as a source of pride for the local farmers, to be a legacy not just for his family, but for the entire community. It's an act of service and gratitude that shows his craft is about so much more than just as brewing.
And his desire for his brewery to be continued for 200 or 300 years, that's not a wish for immortality, it's a wish for continuity. He wants his sake to be a timeless anchor for his community and a constant changing in our world.
Exactly. His hope is that the lilac becomes a symbol of everything that is good and true about Akashi, its land, its people, its history, and that this pride is shared by every single person who contribute to the sake from the soil all the way to the grass.
So, sake lovers, what we really discovered today is that the soul of the sake is found not just in the water or the rice, but in the deep connections that a brewer can forge with his land, his community, and his own purpose. I am really thankful, Kari-san, for Mr. Ibaraki for sharing his stories with us.
We hope you enjoyed this episode with Lilac Sake Brewery. We will look forward to seeing you again as we unlock another sake toji from the spirit of the sake of the soul behind the brew. Thank you everybody for watching. Until next time. ありがとう。また見てね。乾杯。
Bye, everyone. See you next time.